Hello, welcome Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 30 Types of Social Movements. We start our lecture with topic Types of Social Conflicts. Social movements are expression of conflict. Conflicts presupposes a clear definition of the opponent, the enemy or the adversary. All conflicts according to Alan Turing have organized actors, valued or desired stakes, and tussle and competition among the actors to achieve those stakes. Against the background of the structure of the concept of conflict, let us study different types of conflicts. Turing formulates 8 types of social conflicts. The first one is competitive pursuit of collective interest. This type of conflict is characterized as the expression of the relationship between the actors' input and output in an organization, or of their relative deprivation. If the employee of a company invests high or low input and receives high or low reward, there can be 4 possible combinations: high input, low rewards; high input, high reward; low input, low reward; and low input and high reward. The first situation has greatest chance for producing conflict. Industrial unrest, labor strikes, and workers' movements can be result of the first situation. Now the second formulation is reconstruction of social and cultural or political identity. In this type of conflict situation, the adversary is projected and defined as they, the order, and the foreigner, or as invader, rather as class opponent or class enemy. The social world gets divided between the insider and outsider. The conflict is generally around the conception of the defense of the community, mainly contemporary movements in India, such as those of Shiv Sena in Maharashtra, and in the recent past, Jharkhand in Bihar, Gorakhland in Bengal, and Uttarakhand in Uttar Pradesh are and have been the expression of this type of conflict. In its uglier expressions, this type of conflict can have a tendency to take the forms of regionalist, linguistic, racist, caste, and communal movements. Actors in this type of movement tend to raise slogans relating to the purity and moral health of society being put in danger by the others, the outsiders. It can produce an intense solidarity among the inside members of the brotherhood and generate a fierce hatred against the other, who are generally projected as the corruptors and polluters of the society. Here, the left wing concept of class enemy gets replaced by right wing concept of cultural enemy. In both situations, the spirit of science is the casualty. The third type of conflict is a political force. This type of conflict generally aim at changing the rule of the game and not just the advantage in the given system. Industrial dispute, trade union, and workers' movement generally assume the form of political conflict. Shorter and Tilly, in their study of strikes in France, argue that strikes, indeed of being the expression of deprivation, were reflections of their sharp progress and decline of political influence of the workers' union. Sudden change in the structure of power or in its normative basis have a strong tendency to generate this type of conflict. The fourth conflict is the defense of the status and privileges. This type of conflict is illustrated by the attempt of an interest group converting their essentially private selfish interest into a public issue. Thus, in its worst expression, one notes that a basically corrupt and essentially dishonest political system often raises the slogan, nation, nation is in danger, merely to hide their ugliness and divert people's attention from the declining political ethics and public trust in the system of governance. Its milder manifestations are found in the cases of farmers' mobilization and teachers' struggles. In many cases, farmers' movements and teachers' struggles, instead of defending their income directly, began proclaiming that agriculture and education be given national priority as these are matter of national importance. The fifth type of conflict is social control of main cultural pattern. Terrain conceives of the conception of cultural pattern in terms of three constituent elements: a model of knowledge, a type of investment, and a body of ethical principles, and these three elements in return represent respectively the conception of truth, production, and morality. These elements are subject to society's capacity to produce itself. In the large complex societies, there is always tussle and conflict between the ruling group and also between the ruling group and the masses. The ruling group attempts at identify itself with the main cultural values of society in order to use those values as a weapon of exercising domination over the masses. The masses, on the other hand, attempt at dislodging the dominant ruling group in order to identify themselves with the same values. This type of tussle between the culture and power remains a perpetual social reality in most of the complex and large society. The sixth type of conflict is creation of a new social order. The sharpest example of this type of conflict is found in the cases of the revolutionary overthrow of an entire political system and its method of governance by the masses in order to establish a new community with a new political system and a new social order. Such a collective action involves almost all sections of society in a mass upsurge, initiating a vast and radical changes in society and in its method of governance. One of the most important consequences of revolutionary type of collective action is that revolution abolishes all type of social conflicts. And by the abolishing conflict, revolution abolishes all possibilities for the emergence of social movement. One can note that movements are expressions more of democratic open than the totalitarian closed society. Revolutions kill movements. Revolutionary leaders call for social order as the precondition of development. But generally, the need for order is cleverly manipulated in the defense of the power and privileges of the new political class and new leaders. The seventh type of conflict is national conflicts. According to Terrain, historical conflicts at their highest level are national conflict. identity and continuity of a society undergoing the process of development and industrialization cannot be defended by the actors or by their social relations, as the nation alone can proclaim identity and control over the changes. In all countries, states train conflict around control of change is conflict about states. Here, emphasis is the need to separate political system as the representative of social, cultural, and economic system from the state as the main agent of historical transformation among societies. The eighth type of conflict is conflict of neo-communitarianism. National conflicts generally show the separation between social and historical conflicts. The negative equivalent of national conflict is neo-communitarian conflict. The neo-communitarian conflict attempt at rejecting the historical transformation which generally come from abroad and tend to erode the traditional values and forms of social organization. It refers to the Western indigenous ideologies and demands, and in process assume the forms of restorative, revivalist, and sometimes even for fundamentalist, inward oriented conflicts and movement. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.